No. Oh, well.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm working on the volume.
Yeah,
Can you say something again?
something again.
Okay, I think that's good.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. Can you say something again?
Ed, can you hear us over here?
Sure, can you hear me?
Sure we can. When it warms up outside, it's really going to be tough. It's cool weather.
Please remember to silence your cell phones. I'll try to talk over the fan. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item C, canvass of May 7th, 2022 general election, certificates of election and oaths of office. Number one, consider approval of resolution canceling returns and the results of the general election held May 7th, 2022. Electing the mayor, council members, places 2 through 4.
I'm sorry, give me just one moment, please. This is the canvass of the May 7th, 2022 election. The election returns duly and legally made show that there were cast in the said elections a total of 501 valid and legal votes, of which 17 were cast absentee, 356 were cast early, and 128 were cast on election day. Each of the candidates in the said elections received the following votes. For mayor, Jacqueline Carrington, a total of 291, 59%. Bridget Nelson, total of 202, 40.97%. Councilmember place 2, candidate Matt Chapman, 338 votes, 70%. Rachel Neese, 144 votes at 29%. Councilmember Place 4, Keith Crandall, 369 votes, total of 100%. The duly elected members of the Town Council of the Town of Barkerville, Texas, elected on May 7th, 2022 for mayor and council members places 2 and 4, subject to taking the oaths as provided by state law in the state of Texas are as follows. Mayor, Jacqueline Carrington, Councilmember Place 2, Nat Chapman, Councilmember Place 4, Keith Crandall.
Councilman, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the resolution canvassing returns and declaring the results of the general election held May 7, 2022. For the purpose of electing the mayor and 2 council members, place 2 to place 4 for 2.
All in favor?
Yes, currently we do. What was your last vote?
Presentation of certificates of election oaths of office to newly elected mayor and council members. Place 2 and place 4. Will Councilman-elect Chapman and Crandall.
We'll have you wait, I'm going to swear her in first and then she will swear you in.
Excellent.
First of all. Election. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jacqueline Carrington, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the mayor of the town of Barkerville, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state and the ordinances of the town of Barkerville, Texas. So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you. I, Matthew Chapman,
I, Matthew Chapman,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of place 2
that the office of place 2
on the town council for Barkerville, town of Barkerville, Texas,
in the town council of the town of Barkerville,
and will to the best of my ability
will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States and of the state and the ordinances of the town of Barkerville, Texas. So help me God. I, Keith Crandall,
I, Keith Crandall,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of place 4
of the office of place 4
on the town council for the town of Barkerville, Texas,
on the town council for the town of Barkerville, Texas,
and will do the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the constitutional laws
of the United States and of the state
of the United States and of this state
and of the ordinances
and of the ordinances
of the town of Barkerville, Texas, so help me God.
of the town of Barkerville, Texas, so help me God.
Time being 7:07, I'd like to have a 5-minute recess to receive.
Yeah. Yeah.
No more trouble.
I know. Hotel to the event. We're not figuring out even hotels. Like the mission about Lloyd Mayor Shearer and Town Council Member Wilson. I would like to thank Bill Shearer. We'll serve for 9 years, later than as mayor, and we just served for 4 years on council. Appreciate their commitment to the town. I wish them the best in the future. Now, for really on the mayor of town. I'm extremely honored to be selected the mayor of Bartonville and accept the responsibility. I would like to thank everyone who voted for me, and I will lead with integrity, respect, and transparency. My door is always open, and I welcome citizen feedback. Thank you, Bartonville.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you very much for the support of meeting this morning. For electing me as a commissioner. I hope that my door is always open as well. Myself and my others.
I thank everybody as well, and I will work hard every day to earn your continued trust and respect. Thank you very much.
Public participation, not so already, if you've not done so already, please provide your public appearance card to the town secretary. If anyone wishes to speak on the matter not listed on the public hearing, this is your opportunity. If you wish to speak on any item other than the public hearing, you'll have the opportunity during that agenda item. And please state your name and address for the rest of the meeting.
Do not have any secret cards here.
We don't have anyone. Appointed representative liaison report, Kent County Emergency Service, Jim Strain.
On council, honorable mayor. That keep going. Great. For a lot from. Okay. Not much happened during the month. Incidents went up a few, or 271 on 67 EMS, 104 fire calls, lights and siren, minute 9, that was out the door, just for the medic and gone. Response time arrival was 6:57 for the fire district. Service district in the Bartonville, at that time was 6:54. We actually lost 10 seconds. And we're still below that magic. Bartonville incidents, we had 20 for the month. 12 12 non-motor vehicle injuries. 6 people. Motor vehicle accident with injury. Motor vehicle accident without injury. Warning fire. The next one was the other city broke out and made the categories. It is wildfire awareness month, so we're on that. Well, that's good. Pretty much it. So, questions? Anything from you? Please don't hesitate. Next meeting, June 15th, and questions by that time. Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, council, staff. This time I want to call our newest hired officer, William Wood. Ceremony. He comes to us with 8.5 years experience. He started at the Clay County Sheriff's Department. He went to Lawrence County, where Lawrence County Sheriff's Department where he spent most of his time. And then he just recently came from Oklahoma. So that's what he brings with him to the table.
I, William Wood,
I would
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
I will faithfully execute the duties
of police officer
of police officer
in the state of Texas
for the state of Texas,
and the town of Martinville,
the
Texas,
town of Barton, Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state
and of this state
and of the ordinances
and of the ordinances
of the town of Martinville, Texas, so help me God.
of the town of Bartonville, Texas, so help me God.
Oh.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so, we have the monthly charts there. Starting off with calls for service, basically, it's something, generate a report, some paperwork, of some sort, there's 84 there. Medical calls, we had 6. Month of April, by the way. And the officer initiated calls, 217, of those traffic stops were 97. The total calls for March were 302, for April, 307. We had 5 crashes, 3 of which were at 407. One was right around the town center, and the other one being at Kroger. Log reads for March were 689, 607, which is our license plate readers, the pole mounted cameras, capture license plates. 689,607. April 690, 823. We had our drug take back, the national drug take back, something we do on April 30th. We received 112 pounds of prescription drugs. I think that's about 5 months. That's not just here, that's anybody's about to donate to that. We have a, if you don't know, we do have a receptacle in the lobby at the town hall. There's no sharps. Reminder, the Carter Blood Drive is May 28th. We're at Barville store, and I think there was some issues with the time. It's actually 1 p. to 6 p. I think one of the advertisers says noon to 6, but it's actually 1 p. to 6 p. That's it. Any questions?
So I see we get alcohol, we don't want that, right?
Yes, there's a couple ways we get that. Myself and Sergeant we have it on our phone ourselves. Also, it's on our radio channel, so we can hear them being dispatched over the radio channel.
When you dispatch goes to the fire department and shoot at the same time simultaneously.
We scan channels, so there's a specific tone that goes up, and we can hear the recognize the fire. So this is for station 511. Yes, sir.
With the addition of Officer Wood to full staff,
No, sir. We still have one.
one of them,
Yes, sir. Fine. Fine, we'll look at that. In the beginning, kind of, beginning. Thanks, Chief.
Ingram County Administrator. Try to use my outdoor voice. You can never hear me, so I'm gonna try really hard here. Start with the monthly financial report. This is just an overview of the month that ended April 30th. And how that compares to overall how the year and where we stand in each of the departments, the general fund. For sales taxes, as of the end of April, we collected around 57% of what was budgeted, which is pretty much right on target. We're about 58% of the year with that. So that is pretty much right on target with sales taxes. That's a combination of sales and mixed beverage taxes. Property taxes, we collected about 96% of budgeted revenue. That'll continue to trickle in little by little over the rest of the year, but we collected the bulk of that early in this calendar year. Another category that's other transfer, it's really a smaller category overall. It was previously under monthly financial showing that we collected about 80% of the budgeted revenue in that category. Now it's dropped down to 19. That's because we added in some additional anticipated revenues for grant funds from the Denton County Development District for some of the law enforcement equipment that you approved. Some of you approved previously. Development fees, we collected about 90% of budgeted revenue for this year. That includes things like zoning changes, plat fees, any of the fees related to development, not including permitting. And the bulk of that is related to construction inspection fees from the 3 subdivisions that we have ongoing. And those are almost like a pass-through cost. You get revenue in for those fees, but we have to pay the construction inspector for those expenses as the subdivision continues to progress. Permit and inspections is its own category. We're about 63% of budget as of the end of last month, which is just over where we should be, or what we would anticipate this time of year. So a little bit ahead of projections, and that is almost identical for the specifically just residential. I think our residential permitting is about 69% of what we budgeted for that one category. So a little ahead of projections. We have not started issuing permits in any of the subdivisions yet, but that will happen this fiscal year. So you will be over budget on revenue, which is always a good thing for that category later this fiscal year once those begin to roll. I think we should probably close out the first subdivision in the next maybe 60 days or so to start talking about issuing permits. Municipal court revenue is a little bit below what we would normally anticipate this time of year, but we talked about that in previous meetings. Got some vacancies in the police department, and that generally always leads to lower court revenue or court times, just because there are less tickets being written. Some of that balancing out a little bit now that we've had some new officers added onto the schedule. But that's going to kind of balance out slowly over time over the rest of the year. And just as a reminder, it's not a big revenue generator. So when I say everything we're anticipating, it's not that we're wanting that revenue, it's just that we're kind of comparing it to what's been budgeted so we can make adjustments if need be. The next slide is just kind of an overview of each of the what we call departments really here in Martinville, which is administration, police, court, and then other transfers. They're pretty self-explanatory on what those departments consist of, with the exception of transfers. If you're not familiar, that is pretty much solely comprised of the lieutenant town center rebates that we get back on sales and property taxes. So that big annual payment has already happened. So you'll continue to see smaller amounts each month, but the big annual payment has already occurred, and that's why you see that you're saying it's It's based on sales tax, it's a percentage that's based on sales tax and property taxes collected for the property, so it's just collected on an annual, we collect it monthly and then we rebate them once a year for those, for that. So that's just kind of the overview, then we have a breakdown by department for administration. Like we said before, we'd like to see about 58% or so, of your spent, so we still have about 42% remaining, so you can see here in the balance remaining category, each one of the subcategories of administration, salary, benefits, supplies, maintenance, contracted services, and other, those are all really, like below budget for the expenditures, with the exception of contracted services. And we talked about this, I think, in every meeting. At some point, you'll have a budget amendment to balance out between salary and benefits and contracted services. This really just, that's not all, during that kind of mature costs, engineering and attorney and everything else, but we'll have to balance that out once we have a good plan for town administrator, and when they're going to start, we're kind of putting out the rest of the year and make some adjustments to that. Really balancing between the categories, but there should be additional revenue even if we just be balancing between those subcategories of expenditures. Next slide is the police department, which is also below budget in almost every category with the exception of a couple. Maintenance and contracted services, both of those, the reason for being over budget for this percentage of the year are due to one-time payments for things like, dispatch services, annual maintenance costs for various computer and system maintenance programs that we use. And so once those are made during the year, it throws the whole percentage off, but it's not anything that wasn't anticipated. And there's remaining budget for each of the expenditure categories for the rest of the year. Do you have any other questions on the monthly financials? I can try to answer. If anything comes up later, you know, it's not that any other question. I don't have a ton of other stuff to talk about, but I did want to mention specifically related to code enforcement. We have received some complaints about the water ditches. It's just that time of year, they're beginning to be overgrown. So the code compliance officer has begun to reach out to residents, and we'll start with trying to make contact and then we'll follow up with letters. So if you hear people say they got a citation for their grass, it's not a citation, it's a courtesy notice to ask them, right, reminder to comply. But those have just started to go out. So just in case anybody's going to, so just the height requirement in the town is below 12 inches for grass. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're out about town.
Agenda. Agenda consists of non-controversial housekeeping items required by law. Items may be approved with a single motion. Items may be removed from the consent agenda by council member by making such a request prior to motion and vote on the consent. Number one, consider approval of April 19, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Number two, consider approval of April 23, 2022 special meeting minutes. Number three, consider approval of April 27, 2022 special meeting minutes. Number four, consider approval of resolution reappointing municipal court judge, alternate judge, court clerk, deputy clerk. Number five, consider approval of contract with credit card services between the state of Texas, U.S. Bank National Association, and the town for fuel card services and authorization for the interim county administrator to execute the same on behalf of the town. Number six, consider approval of agreement with JP Morgan Chase Bank for procurement and accounts payable card program and authorization for the interim county administrator to execute the same on behalf of the town. Number seven, consider approval of a resolution nominating Jim Carter to his slate of nominees for board manager of the Jetco Area 911 District. A, consider approval of Chapter 6, Article 6, titled Health Code for Your Establishments. Number 9, consider approval of broadband infrastructure funding agreement between the town and Spectrum for the installation of high-speed broadband network. Provide services for residents on Bridle Pit Road, Latigo Lane, Latigo Hills Road, and authorization for the interim administrator to execute same on behalf of the town. Council, do I have a motion to approve items 1 through 9? Motion. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Yeah, removal of that one item. So the next meeting, or
Make a motion to table.
postpone.
Postpone number 4. Motion to Mr. Clerk Judge, motion to Mr. Clerk Judge. Technically, Mr. Clerk Judge.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Motion carries. Regular items, discuss and consider approval of ordinance committee, attachment A, of section 10, entitled rate adjustment of exclusive franchise agreement for solid waste collection, authorizing 9% CPI increase on residential, both trash and recycling, commercial, and roll-off services. Amy?
On April 15th, the town received a request from Waste Connections to increase the rates per the franchise agreement. On the anniversary date of the agreement, the company has the right to increase the rates in accordance with the consumer price index. It's called the CPIU. And I believe Ryan Chubb is here from Waste Connections. He's the manager for our area, and he's going to address the council. I will add that the request is a 9% increase. The current residential rate per home is $17.67, $11.03 for trash, $6.64 for recycle. If approved, the new rates will be $12.02 for trash, $7.24 for recycle, so a total of $19.26. It's an increase of $1.59 per home. And with that, they do have a senior discount, so anybody over the age of, you're not sure, that they can contact the office, there's a senior, you get a discount on that.
Good evening, Mayor, members. My name is Joe, manager of Waste Connections. Here to discuss the increase of 9% for the town for this specific contract. Just to answer any questions you might have. Obviously, the cost of everything is high. Wages for our employees, it's difficult to keep some employees. We've actually increased our wages over the last 6 months, 16%. Here. Do our best we can to keep the town market capable. Guys go above and beyond to keep the town clean. If there's any questions you might have. Yes, sir. It's consumer price index year over year. For we took it off the basis of the average is 9%.
I have one.
Authorize 9% CPI increase on the commercial.
All those in favor? Thank you. Discuss and consider a request to vacate plat. Encompassing 23.696 acres, village absent for additional lot 1, Martin, Texas. Planning and zoning commission recommended.
This is typically, if you have somebody who makes a replat, they don't have to vacate a plat. There's some special circumstances here in that the new property to be platted doesn't match the boundaries exactly of what the current plat is in place on this property. There is a court order to replat the property, and there's been some exchanges of areas as part of the settlement. And so we couldn't require easily the property owner to replat the entire area because they will be owner a portion of that. So this is a request to vacate the existing plat. The final plat is in your packet. There is a small amount, several acres that will remain unplatted, which is generally not an ideal situation. We don't want to take a step backward to property unplatted. The difference in this situation is that the property that will be unplatted by this action and their subsequent administrative plat that we already have a copy of, that will be approved. The portion that will remain unplatted is already planned in a future subdivision. It's actually coming up on your agenda for the 5-acre subdivision coming on tonight. So we don't believe that there's any likelihood that property will remain unplatted for long. It will be here later this year. I mentioned replatted, so I don't have any concern at this time. But I can try to answer any questions. I know there were some questions about that at the planning and zoning sessions. Concerned about leaving some property unplatted, and the town attorney at the time got Mr. Moss was another firm, Jeff Ward, didn't have any concerns at this time with vacating this plat, even though that property would be unplatted for a short period, because we know there is a plat that will come forward on that very soon. I think it's just about 4 acres. And I would say honestly, the property surrounding it right now is unplatted. Additionally, we don't allow for somebody to come in put even one single family home on the property without being platted, simply because it's a requirement from TCU. So there's not really a risk of some activity or development, I guess, occurring on the property in its unplatted state right now.
Board, I'm seeing 23.696 acres.
That
Where is this in relation to the other?
kind of inside of it. So this is what this, I think will be referred to as the Silk property here in Bartonville. A small portion of it is what they're asking to make tonight. So the new subdivision, will come forward, later Deer Hollow, wraps around that property, and the northern pieces of this existing plat will be transferred and are included in the zoning change request tonight, and will be included in the subdivision plat.
This property.
The northern part of this, the part that will remain unplatted. So when this is, when this action making the plat tonight, we have an administrative plat that would be approved, minor plat for the majority of this property, which would be immediately replatted. The portion that remains will be platted, I would guess, probably in the next few months, we'll receive a preliminary plat with the zoning changes. So there's not a great length of time that that small portion will be. Did Mr. Harrison here? Here. I was trying, I couldn't remember if you had an applicant on your behalf or if it was you. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No.
I have a lead time question. My part is on here. What's the I need to
Ed, did you get it?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
We had a request from a council member, a question about possibly refusing if they are potentially within 200 feet of the subject property for a vacation of a plat.
No, that, that provision doesn't apply to platting. It only applies to zoning.
Thank you, Ed.
There's no concept of platting. Well, public hearing.
Zoning change, Deer Hollow, public hearing consideration of ordinance amending the code of ordinances, zoning regulations to change the zoning designation for approximately 81.38 acres of land generally located east of Seals Road, west of and south of Duck Creek Road, and north of Junior Road from ag district to residential estates RE5.
So this is the item that I was talking about in the last one. This is a zoning change request for, either part of this property, which is immediately west of Cat Creek. It's kind of at the end of Stony Ridge Drive, you go in, it into the northwest corner of this property. Presentation up here. We have the applicant Doug Powell here to address this if you have any questions. But the nuts and bolts of this are it's a zoning change request for a 5-acre for RE5 from the current zoning of ag, which is consistent with the land use plan. The entirety of the property is indicated as RE5 on the land use plan. This would be consistent.
Please let your name.
My name is Doug Powell. I'm with Adams. Our offices at 201 Country View Drive, Roanoke, Texas. If you can advance it, maybe I can advance it. So this is the location map of the property. Kind of, it's a backward C. It is approximately 81 acres. As I point out, it's west of Cat Creek. It is really the zoning you're acting on tonight, but the next step in the process would be to plat the property and do due diligence for the applicant, Mr. Molo. We've done this concept plan that shows how the property could be subdivided. We're not acting on this, but it just gives a representation of what could happen when we did come back and plat. Mr. Molo couldn't be here tonight. He's out of town. He actually is a resident of Cat Creek. Lot 8 is kind of in the middle of that. He's right next to that, so he's really going to be developing in his backyard. He is a resident here in Barton. Again, pretty straightforward. We think we're going to meet all your standards. We definitely meet the master plan in terms of the minimum acres, minimum size lots. 5 acres. There's 14 of them. Be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
I mean, 741, all the public hearing. Does anyone want to speak in favor? Yes, please state your name and address.
My name is Alan Brown. I'm at 600 Seals Road in Bartonville.
Are you in favor, sir?
What's that?
Are you in favor?
No, I'm not. Not entirely. I understand that you're going to put a development there. What I'm concerned with is this entire area is very heavily treated. And there's a number of my neighbor's homes, all those on Seals Road, back up to this property. Now they're going to need to, we're talking about mowing down all the trees and putting in a gravel temporary road up against that property line. I don't see the purpose for a road being so close. I don't see a purpose for the trees being mowed down. I would ask you all to consider changing that plan so that the road that they're going to use to build those roads is not on our property. And if we continue with the privacy of trees back into our property.
If you could just drop that up right on the table there, we'll get it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Does anybody else want to speak publicly? Favor or in opposition?
Where the roads in and out here going to be? I mean, it's
gonna be a lot of traffic if you're gonna put houses there.
Could you stand up while you talk about it? I just want to remind everybody, this action is only for the zoning, which is really entitlement for the potential of 5-acre development. And I know this is a concept plan. I am 100% certain that something will be changed on it before we get to the plating stage. And so we're really not at this point taking any action on location of lots, roads, entrances, exits, trees, any of those things. Those are all really later in the planning stage. So I know those are the questions that we've received at town hall, at least to date, all relate to matters for planning rather than the zoning.
My name is Paula St. Paul, 59 East Jeter, and I have nothing whatsoever to do with this. My concern was, how are they gonna ingress and egress on this? So with all the houses, even with 5 acres, they have a lot of cars. They talk about 2.5 per house. You start putting teenagers in there, you got more than 2.5. So are we gonna have more options to look at this before they start building on this? Talk about the cars that are, talk about the roads in and out, talk about the trees that are there that are knocked down, and look at it that way? Or is this the final look at on this land? No, there's gonna be a lot more discussion. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wants to speak? Martin is-
Do you have anything else that you wanted to add, Doug?
Well, I think you did cover it, but for those folks that are asked about the trees, y'all's regulations mean that we have to go out there and survey trees. And we're doing that right now. And before we cut down any trees, we're gonna come back in here and show you what the trees that we're removing, and they'll be all noted on a list, caliper type, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of trees in the property, so yes, some of the trees will have to come down and put in roads. But Mr. Molo is one of the reasons he likes the property is he wants to keep the trees. He's a custom home builder. He's hoping that on the lots, a lot of those trees, most of the trees will remain. So, but I want everyone to know, and I know you all do, that we still have to do a tree survey and come in and get approval from you before we take any trees down.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? In favor or opposition? Time being 7:46, I close the public hearing. Do I have a motion for the ordinance? Zoning for ag or R5?
Make a motion that we change the ordinance to add to R2.
Second. Second. All those in favor? Number 13, public hearing zoning change. Public consideration of ordinance amending the code of ordinances zoning regulations. Change the zoning designation for 22.3 acre tract, also known as Criminal Condition Block A, Lot 1, at 462 from Bacon Road. From Ag District AG to residential estate R2. Planning and zoning approved 5-0. That presentation.
This is another zoning change that is consistent with the town's land use plan. This property currently it has actually 2 homes after some replanting that occurred in the past. There is exit point to Macon right now. The future plan would be to subdivide this property into 3 lots. One would exit Macon, would exit onto Broome. That's really the only way that they can kind of get that lot to shape up to where they will meet all of the town's requirements for minimum lot width, for the frontage, and all the other planning requirements. And that's the next step. And that is the first step is to discuss the zoning change. The request is for a change to RE2 from Ed, which is the individual of the land use plan. They do not at this point intend to develop a acre subdivision. They're really just trying to split the property into 3 lots. And those lots, some of them would be smaller than 10 acres, so it requires some rezoning in order to improve them into the city. Not have kind of the application. We did a ton of planning and zoning commission.
Time being 7:48, open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Like to speak in opposition? Time being 7:48, I'll close the public hearing.
This is RE2 today.
Okay, Madam Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Public hearing, site plan. 5-9. Public hearing and consideration of site plan application. 5-9, management for 1 acre tract of land generally located on the west side of FS 407, north 19 and south of Martville Town Center. Planning and zoning recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. Staff presentation.
This is, residence except for Cloud Nine, primary purpose of this building, which is approximately 50,000 square feet. The primary purpose is to relocate Cloud Nine Salon and Spa into Martinville. At the first floor, we're also retail tenants and service informational purposes. For the site plan itself, we have met all of the town's requirements in terms of the code ordinances and requirements for site plan development. The only caveat to that is that some of the things that don't apply, variances were already granted for by the Board of Adjustment. So once the variances were approved in April, we all their plans to show compliance with the ordinances and variances that were approved. There were a couple of rounds of comments back and forth with the town engineer, and all of those comments were revised prior to the planning and zoning commission meeting. Emergency Services District also was recommended approval, indicating that the site plan is all of their requirements. So we're recommending approval at this time. Sorry, we do have the applicant here who has a presentation. If you would like to see it, but at this time, we're recommending approval on all of the aspects of the site plan meet the town's requirements. Town council and town staff. My name is Kara King with McAdams. The address is 201 Country View Drive, Roanoke, Texas 76262, and I am here representing Cloud9 Salon and Spa. I have a short presentation followed by a short video, and then I'll answer any questions that y'all have.
Douglas. Yeah, yeah.
It has a sweet spot. There we go.
At the beginning.
Yes. You can probably control it easier again. Okay, so just to, we'll skip to this one. Let's skip to the next one. Okay, so just an introduction of the team and who I have here in the audience with me. Kim, Chris, and Nathan are the owners. Myself and McAdams, and then the architect, GHA architect, Wendy and Alicia are also here. So this right here shows a location map. You can see that it's right there at the corner of FM 407, IT Neely is south, and then Bartville Town Center is north of it. It's located just east of Marty B's parking lot, and kind of just south of the Bartville Town Center pond. It's right there in that open lawn. Like Corey said earlier, the building is approximately, it's 14,749 square feet. It has 2 floors. The current land use and zoning is Village Center. The final plat was filed in 2019, and it can be accessed off FM 407, 19 Ely, and then the access road into the town center. Can we skip to the next slide, please? Next one, please. This here just shows the final plat that was done in 2019. This is the site plan that was approved. It shows the building, then you have the access drive around it, connecting both to the existing up north and the existing on the west, which is the road that runs between Marty B's up to the town center. This is just a color illustration of the site plan. This is looking north is up. So to the west is Marty B's parking lot. And then just to the north is going to be the pond, and to the east is FM 407. This is the east building elevation. So this is what you will see looking from FM 407. This is the north building elevation. This is what you will see looking from the Bartonville Town Center. The west building elevation is what can be seen from Marty B's parking lot just north of him. And then the south building elevation is what can be seen when you're in the parking lot that's to the east of Marty B's or looking from on TV. These are the dumpster elevation showing the masonry, required masonry wall around the dumpster and the doors on the enclosure. This is the first floor plan. And this is the second one. This is just a concept board that's showing what the building looks like, what the elevations look like, and how they compare to the surrounding properties. Marty B's is right there in the center, and then his coffee shop is on the bottom right hand. This shows the site photometrics. And then I'm going to skip to the video real quick for y'all to watch that, and then I will answer any questions that you have. Like I said, I'm here to answer any questions that you have. Thank you. Thank you.
Time being 7:57, I'll open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Time being 7:57, I'll close the public hearing.
I was on Board of Adjustments when this actually came through. So all of the material facade, it complies with the IBC International Building Code. And International Building Code, there's state laws. And as far as the cabinetries and ornamental, it's a rather small lot. So put in 10 large cabinetries and have them grow up over time. That could create issues down the road. So, one of the adjustments is
Have a motion. Have a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. 15, public hearing zoning text amendment. Public hearing consideration of the ordinance amending the public zoning ordinance related to new and unlisted use of venue or banquet hall, planning, zoning, by order 5-0. Staff presentation.
So this item is not to approve any specific property or project, but rather to discuss an amendment to the town's land use table as the code of ordinances to add an additional use in and a definition related to that use, and then to determine what, if any, zoning district you would like to allow that use in, and then whether that may require a conditional use permit or if it would be allowed by right. So anytime there is a use presented for any type of a business or other use in the town that is not listed in the code of ordinances as a specific use in our land use table with the definition, the process is that the applicant can request consideration of a new, if it's something that's very close to something that's in place, town secretary has the right to add that in, or to, I guess, to treat it the same way as the existing use. But this is something that's fairly different than anything we have in place right now. And so the process is, as we've done, a kind of a public hearing process to go through planning and zoning commission and then the town council to talk about the use, the definition, and where you might be going to allow that into the town land use table. The recommendation, and this is purely based on conversation with the applicant, their kind of desired plans and development review committee meeting that we held, even though we have a proposed development, really something we're just yet, just to kind of run it by them and talk about some potential sites and projects in the future. This is recommended to be added into your land use table in the village center zoning district only by conditional use permit. So right now, we will be taking action on this ordinance. It's included in this item, which gives a definition for the event venue / banquet hall. With the definition of a facility or portion thereof, which is rented, leased, or otherwise made available to any person or group for a private event function that is not open to the general public, whether or not it is charged. Really a private event venue where you may see banquets and weddings and that sort of thing. I know we do have the applicant here. However, this applicant, which is Doug Powell, just on this item, on behalf of Marty Bryant, who presented at the planning and zoning commission and answered, I think, quite a few questions that they had. He is not able to be here for probably another hour or so, and so if you'd like to talk about this item, we can. There are some questions that only he can answer. We may ask that you consider postponing it to the next meeting, but I think that I can probably answer a number of questions that you have in regards to the previous submission and the current submission. It's changed drastically from what was previously proposed on the site for the event center. So I know that there was the bulk of the questions that P&Z had related to noise and the size and traffic and those sorts of things. So talking about the reduction in size, it's only about half of what was previously proposed on that site, which in turn reduces the amount of the total occupancy on the site, which reduces the number of cars at the site. Another big request for this specific site is to allow some additional parking on top of what's required for the event center to help with overflow parking from Martinez. And as we now Cloud 9 is going to be going in. Currently, Martinez employees are parking over at the town center, but we have some new restaurants that are going to be opening and some other businesses in the town center that will hopefully be taking up some of those spaces. And so this is kind of a trying to have some parking across the street. So I think that's kind of the bulk of it, but we have a presentation as well.
Again, my name is Doug Powell, Adams, address is 201 Drive, Roanoke. And thank you, Corey. Marty has a previous engagement and can't be here for the moment. But hopefully you've had an opportunity to listen to or build the discussion at P&Z. Corey's right. I think a lot of questions were answered, a lot of issues came up. And the biggest one is, as Corey pointed out, the size of this. And I wasn't with McAdams, part of the one that came through a couple years ago that was denied. one of the P&Z members asked, why is this different from what we denied? And the real answer is, it's half the size, or less than half the size. There's no kitchen in the facility. The kitchens will be at Marty's, so bring food over if need be. But it really is the intensity, the size of the space has gone way down from what was shown before. I do have a couple slides just to show you. And again, this is kind of getting ahead of the game. This would be the site plan or the conditional use permit. But in blue, you see the subject property to the south of Marty B's on 19 Neely Boulevard, south of that, west of 7-Eleven. The site is, looks like it's fairly large in size, but it really is impacted by hit next. This is zoomed in one more time, a couple of times. That's an overhead power line, and of course you can't build anything underneath it. We park there if needed, and then hit turn again. The floodplain. This is the floodplain. So even though the property comes out to 407, you can't get access on the 407. And so because the floodplain in 7-Eleven, it's really back behind, right? And Mike Molo, my other client, represented that this is kind of the worst property for retail development you could have. And because of that, right, it has no visibility. It can hit next. This is a conceptual layout that we've done. Again, this is not what you're acting on tonight, but it gives you an idea. And I know it's very hard to see, but behind the building, there are berms that will enclose that outside area that are 5 feet high and vegetation. And that was done to reduce the impact of the noise, right? Since we've talked to the town, everybody's concerned about the adjacency and the neighbors and what this venue would do. And this is an attempt to say, no, we can use some of the dirt that's out there, create these berms, plant vegetation, and hopefully keep the noise down. And you see to the right of the screen, back behind 7-Eleven, directly behind it, that is parking that really will be not so much for this facility, but for the overflow or employee parking for Marty B's, which he desperately needs. And Marty points out that with the restaurants now opening up in the center, he's not going to have that, so everything's going to get shifted. This is a real opportunity to kind of address that. One more slide. This is pictures of the elevations. Again, conceptual in nature, but quality construction, I think it matches well with Marty and even the 7-Eleven, really, quite frankly. And one more. I added this slide. We didn't have this slide at P&Z, but it shows you how far this is from the adjacent property, right? Because of those overhead power lines and the floodplain, you can see that the nearest house is hundreds and hundreds of feet away. And so we think it's really a great site for this use, or a use that really fits well on this site. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better use. During P&Z, Corey actually read off all the uses that you could do by right in the zoning district. It includes a dance studio and other things that have quite more traffic, more daily traffic than this thing would have. And so it still would be a conditional use permit. We'd have to come back before you, but we do believe that it fits well, and really it's probably not as intensive use as some of the permitted uses that are already in the district. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I wish Mark was here. He's a real advocate.
Really quickly, one of the things that came up in both the development committee as well as the planning and zoning commission related to noise or sound in the area was the original fence venue proposal included a large outdoor area for music, for more like outdoor bands and reception, that sort of thing. And so this plan, in addition to the size reduction, also moves all that inside. So I know that Marty did not want to say no music outside or anything like that, because they may have, some light music or an actual wedding ceremony out on the patio, but the reception, the music, all the our influence on our life rather than outside. So that was one of the biggest changes. So again, if you have any major questions or you have concerns about the property, I'll ask if we were to consider waiting until later in the evening, have a chance to maybe around party chance to hear questions or concerns, or to postpone it to another meeting. Well, we need to open the public hearing. And so we can either open the public hearing, close it, take action, or we can continue. I'm meeting 809. Does anyone wish to speak?
Well, owner of 509 Sloan Spa located 7160 Justin Road, Montana. First of all, thank you so much. It's been a long journey for my husband and I, my son Nathan. Trying to get emotional, but we're just very excited and finally moving forward. Made it so easy for us and helped us along with all the things that we face. So we're just very excited to be moving forward. I'm excited mainly. I think Marnie and I are going to be great neighbors. We have about 200 clients a day ourselves, and then we have tenants that have clients as well. And we know that there's going to be parking overflow, parking on Saturday. And so we are a great partner because we're usually done unanimously. Our girls 4 o'clock on Friday evening and probably about 3 o'clock on Sunday for the most part. So we feel like that part works well, but we know that he's had to overflow simply parking in Department Square. I think this would be a great opportunity for some of that parking to be shuffled over when there's large events. I think it would be great for that as well. But of course, we're thinking weddings, different events like that. We think will help grow and support our business as well. We're excited and look forward to neighboring with departments.
Anyone else like to speak in favor? Like to speak in opposition?
Questions on the side? So I think I've read.
I took this one until later this evening and after the other items to try to take action on this tonight. Would you like to? I wanted to make a motion to the public hearing. It's regularly scheduled.
I make the motion. Postpone. Leave open. Leave open until the next regular scheduled town council meeting.
All in favor? Number 16, discuss and consider the ordinance amending the code of ordinances, chapter 9, personnel, providing for authorization of vacancies.
This is just, I didn't want to put it in consent because it's not something that we discussed probably before. At this point, currently, the ordinance requires that anytime we have a vacancy in town, if anybody moves, they quit, whatever, for whatever reason, it doesn't speak to that. The town's employment, the staff has to bring back a request to the town council at their next meeting. staff within the budgeted position. So this would allow for, a patrol officer to be reclassified to something else in the last, deputy town secretary to become another permit technician or anything. So only be within the budgeted and approved position, just to refill that position. So, we have that means that, is a vacancy at some point in the future when you are in a situation where there's maybe some financial concern or there's a reason to leave it open to have some job savings. First time commissioner should be able to work with you on that. More concerned about that happening in the future, you can always implement on that. This is really just to help, as you know, it takes a little while to try to get somebody hired and learn about the candidates that may be in the position. For example, the police officer, we just had to bring it back to you at the last meeting to request filling that vacancy. And with the employment, just trying to eliminate an extra process is really the reason. They just don't have to come back. So set up this ordinance to just not to use.
Replace that position. Comparable salary.
Number 17, discussion on process and placing items on the agenda, staff presentation.
So, with having new council members and really everybody in new roles, thought it would be a good idea to talk about the process maybe for placing items on an agenda. I know that you currently have at the end of each council meeting agenda, future agenda items where somebody at that point could request an item on a future agenda, but at that point we can't talk about it really, you can just express that you'd like to discuss it at a future meeting. I don't know if this may be a problem or not, but a lot of the times there's just rarely there's an item that's requested by a specific council member and there's not support necessarily from the rest of the council for that item. But when it's requested like at the end of the meeting, our assumption as staff is, well, they requested this item. We've got to do some digging and maybe talk to the attorney and get some numbers or get some pricing or all these kind of research items. And if we are allocating staff time and resources to try to prepare an item for you to discuss it at the next meeting, it may have all been for naught if there's not really interest in it. So I guess this item is really kind of just discuss that process and maybe make some recommendations or some stuff for you to consider that potentially if an individual council member requests an item to be added to a future agenda, that it would be placed on the next agenda. But at that point, if we have some knowledge or kind of first-hand information that we can share with it, but there wouldn't be a lot of staff time and research and legal fees and things incurred on that item prior to the first council discussion about it. If you discuss it at that next meeting and then everybody seems to be, leading the direction, you can provide staff direction at that time to actually take action. But this really just prevents, I guess, the staff time and resources on an item without knowing that there's some council majority. That. Not really an action item on that. This is really just a discussion.
Any other suggestions?
Well, so the ordinance for really right now, a lot of cities will have a process in place where, a council member can add an item if they get a second from another council member. This is the mayor's agenda, Barnhill, the mayor can add items to the agenda. If you have something to push over the mayor, she can always add it. Or, bring it up to the administrator. They can talk to the mayor about it, see if it's something that makes sense on the next agenda. But this really was kind of my recommendation that we have such limited staff here at Bartonville that really allocating time research an item that may not really go anywhere, or is, there's not really council support for it. It's really a waste of time. But we'll still put the item on the agenda, so you have the opportunity at that point to kind of discuss it. And then once it's on the agenda, and you decide if you want to allocate resources to research it or look into it or get pricing or whatever it might be. If it's something that's going to take an excessive amount of time, that's when you can have a conversation with your staff about your competing interests and priorities, and they would have to tell you, we can do this, but just be aware that this other thing that we're working on might drop down on the priority list a little bit until this thing gets done. But that's your right as a council to kind of direct those priorities. And so you would have that discussion to be able to shift things around at that point. I don't think it's really a problem with everybody being able to add items to the agenda until it becomes a problem. And then you can deal with it at that point. I don't think you really have to be smart.
Okay. Closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, the town council will be in closed executive session in court. Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with town attorney, seek legal advice on the Texas Open Meeting Act in litigation Jessica Tolliver versus the town of Bartonville. Civil action number 4/21 CB United States District Court, Eastern Texas, from Texas. Government Code Section 551.074, personal matters, deliberate and consider employment of officers and employees. Mayor Pro Tem and town administrator. Government Code Section 551.89, security devices or security audits, and discuss and receive information related to IT network security. Time being 7:21, we're now in closed session.
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.